Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos, as you probably expect at this point. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, PC Steam, and of course the Nintendo Switch. So, last time, we have basically almost completed everything in terms of Iris Island, despite the fact that we're missing some of those side stories, because we still need able to get some of those memory tokens, but we'll save that in a later time. So because of this though, and also we did manage able to, well, finish up everything in terms of the forms of, those cyberspace segments from time to time. In addition to that, we also managed able to obtain the 7th and the final Chaos Emerald for the second time. In addition to that, we also managed able to take down, probably is by far is my favorite Titan battle in the entire game, which appears to be Wyvern, and my goodness, that was epic in every way. And as a result, I just cannot wait until I'm able to actually replay that boss fight on my own time for a bit. But as a result for that kind of stuff though, that'll be a topic for later. So today, for this video, is about the fact that we're about to be able to go in and explore the next island in the game, which appears to be known as the Chaos Island. So because of this though, looks like we're playing some Tetris and what have you, to able to actually solve this particular challenge puzzle. So just in case we can able to fill up the first segment of the map. So just to ensure about the fact that, well, as far as at this point in time, is that between this island, alongside with the forms of the next couple of islands later, this is where the point where the fact that Chaos Island is going to be really, really huge. Like, really, really massive as it is. Especially about the fact, no matter what though, is about the fact that there's going to be a lot of emphasis on the forms of backtracking, as well as a lot of emphasis on exploration. So as a result, as you can see, that Chaos Island is filled to the brim with multitude of islands to able to go from island hopping to island hopping. So because of that, not able to go from one place to the other with one of those islands in particular, is that you need to utilize the rail grinding most of the time. So just in case you can able to go from one place to the other, assuming of course if you really want to able to go for 400% completion, obviously you still need to able to tackle through most of those challenges anyway. So just in case you can able to actually access to fast travels with those, you know what I'm saying, cyberspace transporters and all that stuff. So yeah, you probably get the gist of it. So anyways, let's go ahead and obtain the actual the seat of power. So but either way, again, it's been about roughly 3 days ago since we've last played this game, because obviously about the fact that between both Mario and Luigi, they are both almost finishing up everything in terms of challenge mode before they moved on to some side content in Mario Super Sluggers. So just to ensure about the fact that hopefully them two will able to finish that particular Let's Play. Well, it's not possible during the forms of by the end of this month, but definitely in the beginning of next month for sure. Specifically in July. So because of this though, and yeah, we already know how to dodge because obviously we've already pulled that off during the forms of the beginning portion of the game. So just to ensure about the fact that, oh, Shinobi? Huh, that's interesting. So as a result, we actually stumbled across into the next Guardian, which appears to be known as Shinobi, referencing one of those Sega titles. So that seems kind of interesting. So obviously, that is when the point about the fact that the more you try to face off against with the later Guardians, that is when you do need to stumble across into a move called Prey. So just in case you can able to, you know, reflect the actual attack back, or potentially speaking, you can able to counter-attack it. So just to ensure you can able to deal with those Guardians in the easiest time if possible. So but either way though, that's essentially how we're going to be doing for this point, especially noticeable if we try to come across into later encounters and all that stuff. So everything else will be pretty much expectable too. So but either way, so for instance, we need to go on to this next challenge right there, that we have to pray back the actual projectile at this thing. So just in case we can able to reveal the next part in terms of the forms of the map itself. Well, assuming of course you're able to actually just, you know, actually access to the map function. So Anyways, a few things we want to explain for this point today. That is that today's date, of course, there is the 19th of June today, in this case in 2023 today. There are tons of stuff I would like to mention for this point today, luckily speaking, although I will able to actually save that conversation once we meet up with the films of the next Sonic's friends, which after all, that we've already experienced Amy, and we've already experienced Knuckles, and especially noticeable for Big the Cat, so something tells me about the fact that the only remaining friend we might come across into is none other than Tails himself. So, but before we do all the last stuff though, we stumbled across into the first cyberspace transporter in Chaos Island, so just to ensure that we'll get this out of the way, just in case about the fact that we can hopefully potentially try to able to unlock the vault, so we can able to obtain the Chaos Emerald and stuff like that. So anyways, let's just dive right into this, and just to see what level environment, and seems about the fact that we're going back to Green Hill Zone vibes again, except now, the level layout is very familiar to you for those of you who ever played Sonic Adventure 2. That is about the fact that the level layout is based off from Green Forest. So, as a result, the only difference is this time around though is that there's no bomb ticking. And as a result, that we don't have to worry about the time limit, because usually you have to able to beat the level within 8 minutes before it explodes. So just to ensure about the fact that with the plot significance anyway, so, like, blows up, or anything else like that, even though it's been a very long while since I actually have last played Sonic Adventure 2, not only on the GameCube, but also on the HD systems, likely on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 versions, and especially noticeable the Sega Dreamcast version as well. But that's just because about the forms of I'm still worried about the stupid random resetting problem during the course within the Sega Dreamcast as the system itself, because that was usually the most common thing that usually happens nowadays. Especially noticeable because, relatively speaking, I know for a fact that getting a brand new sealed version of the Sega Dreamcast is actually hard to come by these days now, just because about the fact that, gee, no wonder why that unfortunately though the Sega Dreamcast has been flopped, because as a result about that particular point worth noting for. So, now I've honestly have no idea why I somehow managed able to keep on messing up with my jumps and stuff like that, because again, I do have some major complaints about the forms of the momentum in these cyberspace segments like this from time to time. So, but either way though, it does take me a bit of some time to get used to, I guess. So, anyways though, so the first thing I want to explain, and that is about the fact that recently, during about a couple of days ago, is that My Little Pony Equestria Girls has officially became 10 years old just recently. As a result, while looking back on it though, despite the fact that back in the day, I've never actually able to look on the full movie of My Little Pony Equestria Girls, to be honest with you. But that's just because about the fact that, well, the only scenes I do enjoy, and that is the actual pony forms themselves of Twilight Sparkle and the gang. But that's just because about the fact that I'm so curious to know about the continuation of the story after the events of the finale of Season 3, because after all, that was when Twilight Sparkle's now an Alicorn and all that stuff, which I was very excited to see what's going to be new to the table, but that wasn't until when it gets to the point in Journey forms of in November 2013, we're able to actually find out some more stuff about the forms of how the fact that when Twilight Sparkle's now an Alicorn and everything. Well, Journey forms of Season 4. But as a result of that kind of stuff though, now as far as whatever I did look back on the films of Equestria Girls, the first movie, as far as the films of the Equestria Girls series, as far as I'm aware, I think it's kind of hard to get back into it, especially because, well, I will say the only good thing about that particular film to me though is the introduction to the forms of Sunset Shimmer, which, you know, back in the day that she was the villain at first, but then later on, during the forms of in the second movie, which appears to be Rainbow Rocks, that she's now becoming a good guy. So because of this though, so yeah, it's kind of weird able to look back on the forms of the first Equestria Girls film nowadays, especially because what I've noticed is that the plot on the Equestria Girls segment is actually basically a rehash storytelling as the forms of how it does it since the beginning portion of Friendship is Magic itself. To be more specifically in Season 1 premiere, or to be more specifically the prologue, of the films of Season 1, to be more specifically, because of all that, meeting up with the films of, you know what I'm saying about Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy, Rarity, and all that stuff, which, yeah, and also what I've noticed is about the fact that sometimes the animation itself just feels a bit, I don't know, weird at times during the films of, you know, of how the films of the human counterparts of Twilight Sparkle actually felt like. And on top of all that stuff, though, it's about the fact that, well, that's the reason why it's actually kind of hard to say to able to look back on the films of the first Equestria Girls movie as far as this is concerned. Well, again, if only if the fact that I've only enjoyed the pony segments, that's just because about the fact that I'm biased, I guess, especially because they are so dang adorable whenever they manage to become in pony form. Although, don't get me wrong, I found a human form to be still okay, but it's just that maybe the pony form is actually my cup of tea, especially because of how the fact that the way they managed to animate it, or I'm just biased, I guess, so. But there we go, we somehow managed to complete the first cyberspace segment, and now we can able to open up the blue Chaos Emerald, so I don't think there's any, like, 2 Chaos Emeralds in a row this time around, though, but that's just because about the fact that we need to get the ridiculous amount of those vault keys nowadays, especially because, well, we do need able to collect more of them before we're able to actually get even more Chaos Emeralds, so, as you can see, we actually come across into ourselves a costume change, and this one appears to be based off from Monster Hunter, so yeah, that seems pretty cool and legitimate at the same time. And luckily it's for free for DLC department, because unlike the forms of how it does it on, you know what I'm saying, with Sonic Adventure 2 Soap Shoes costume change, that basically though is only locked out behind the newsletter's subscription for it. So, but either way, so let's just go ahead and level up our attack alongside with the defense as well. So just in case we can able to actually get a lot more stronger, especially now and then, is about the fact that certain enemy encounters will get a bit tougher at this point. Although, mind you, this is still on hard mode, because there is also the 4th difficulty you can able to unlock, but I'll explain more details on that as soon as we're able to continue experiencing this game, so. Anyway, so let's see what's in here. So we got ourselves the memory tokens, something relates to wrenches, so sure enough, there's Tails.
Hang tight, little bro. It won't make you wait much longer.
And as far as I'm aware, luckily we actually got enough of those memory tokens so we can able to talk to Tails for reals. So let's see how he's going to be holds up to for this point. Especially, although despite the fact that we're going to be releasing him, that also means we might also get corrupted again. So
catching my breath.
He never stops. Clarification. He never gives up.
The spatial anomaly that affected us seems to have left me in a digitized state. But those same energies are manifesting into some worrisome mutations for you.
Those sure are words you said just now.
I'm saying I'm fine. You're not, and I'm worried.
I'll be fine. And I need this power to rescue you.
He's even enduring the cyber corruption better than I calculated he would.
You're always rescuing me, and... Let's focus on the now. What do you need?
Chaos Emeralds. Think you can help me track them down?
I'm on it.
It's so sad someone so impressive will be lost in the end. It's not fair.
alright, so it looks like we somehow managed to learn the next skill. So as a result, speaking of the forms of certain skills, is that I believe we've almost finishing up everything in terms of the skill tree as a result. So relatively speaking, assuming of course if we do manage to able to get ourselves some more skill points later down the road, then we should be able to become unstoppable for sure. So either way, so now we need to get ourselves our first Chaos Emerald during the course of being Chaos Island. So you know what that means? It's time to collect those Chaos Emeralds for the 3rd time. So as a result, it feels kind of similar, structurally speaking, as the forms of Sonic Adventure 2, like, except the fact that you play as different playable characters during this particular process. So in this game's case, it's about the fact that you only play as Sonic the whole way through. Although, because of how the fact that, well, DLC is now a thing after all, specifically free DLC as far as this is concerned, that also means about the fact that we expect to able to come across into ourselves, you know, other 3 playable characters later down the road. So that must have been super exciting, as you probably already expect. So there's another topic I wanted to discuss, and that is about the fact that recently, during the course of about a couple of days ago, not only were we able to actually celebrate the 5th year anniversary of one of those films in particular, Incredibles 2, but also during the films of recently as well, happy 10th year anniversary of the release of Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures TV series. Now, despite the fact that it's been donkey's years since I actually have last watched Pac-Man and Ghostly Adventures TV series, because let me tell you, I'm still not a big fan of the forms of the characters' redesign, but that's just because about the fact that, well, that particular show does remind me of something related to Sonic Boom, essentially. Well, mind you, about the fact that with Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures TV series came out 1 year before Sonic Boom exists. So as a result, and similar to the forms of how it does in a Sonic Boom TV series, it also does have the actual video game tie-ins as far as this is concerned. Like, I know for a fact that for Sonic Boom, does manage to contain 3 games based off from a TV series from Sonic Boom, and as far as I'm aware, for Pac-Man and Ghostly Adventures, only has 2, which as a result, it does contain not only the first game, but also the second game as well, which they came out on multiple platforms, including the PlayStation systems, and especially noticeable with the Xbox systems as well. So, gee, no wonder why that certain Sonic Boom stuff doesn't seem able to get the PlayStation version and the Xbox versions, specifically PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, as well as Xbox 360 and Xbox One. So, yeah, it seems kind of strange for that particular method about the fact that those Sonic Boom games only exist on Nintendo exclusive platforms as far as looking back on certain things. So, but honestly, I just don't feel like talking about it, to be quite frank. But either way, there's also another thing I should probably explain about this as well, in regards to the forms of something else entirely. That is about the fact that, well, happy 20th anniversary of the release of Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut for the Nintendo GameCube. Which, honestly, while looking back on the forms of Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut right now, that it seems about the fact that every now and then about the fact that some people seem to say it's definitely a little bit more inferior to the Dreamcast version every now and then. Well, I honestly about the fact that I do think that Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut is a good time, don't get me wrong, but it does have some very questionable flaws, like for instance, while looking back, about the fact that unlike the Dreamcast version, that the Dreamcast version of Sonic Adventure has no abundance of glitches, whilst compared to the forms of in the GameCube port, that basically it does have some bit of glitches here and there. Like for instance with the actual very weird physics or weird collision detection. So as a result of that kind of stuff though, and also some people complain about the forms of the visual presentation of Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut while looking back for 20 years later, because as far as I'm aware, they complain about the forms of the plasticky models, which as a result about the fact that I do think that the Dreamcast version still is more superior to me though, just because of all that graphics, as well as from that much more better lighting, as well as better graphical alterations for certain levels, specifically Speed Highway and Twinkle Park, and as well as the forms of Final Egg, because I just think that the Dreamcast version has the better surroundings, all things considered, I guess, so. But still, I'm biased when it comes to the forms of preferring the original version over a bit more, than any forms of how it does it on the remake or the HD, well, it's hard to explain really, because I know for a fact it's been quite a few days since we actually discussed on something relates to that, because, well, as I said before about the fact that the uploading schedules is a bit slightly slow, but hopefully we'll still be able to be back on track. Well, at least we'll hopefully about the fact that until when it gets to the point until the second half of the year, likely also in the beginning of July, then hopefully we should be able to get the most of those uploading schedules back on track for most of the time, so... But we shall see. But I digress. But I still have some fun with the forms within the GameCube version of Sonic Adventure, specifically Sonic Adventure DX Director's Cut, because obviously the only thing I do really enjoy about the forms of that particular remake, though, to me, is the Game Gear titles, so... But that's just the way I feel about it, though, but either way, so let's go and talk to Tails right here.
Not an ideal working condition. If I just had my body, I could be so much more efficient.
Amy said she felt like she was in a dream. Does that sound about right?
That's pretty accurate. I can think clearly, and I'm aware, but there's no physicality to it. Everything feels just out of reach.
Do you think that's why the ancients made the cocoa? To have something real to put their spirits into?
It's one hypothesis. We certainly can't rule it out.
So, anyway, there's another thing I should probably explain about this as well, is that, well, happy 24th anniversary of the release of Disney's Tarzan, and still, looking back on that film even to this day, it still is without a doubt is one of my favorite Disney movies I've ever seen, especially notable because that was actually the last hurrah to the films of the Renaissance era, but still, ending things off with Tarzan is actually a really good note. Especially notable because obviously that film is so fantastic even to this day. Especially I still really enjoyed the Phil Collins songs and stuff like that. But even then though, that's for discussion for later time. And there's also one of short things worth noting for is that Cars 3 is getting its 6th anniversary during the films of just recently for about a couple of days ago. And while looking back in it right now, I think it's okay. Like, it's not the greatest, but I think it's pretty okay, as far as looking back on the forms of Cars 3 as far as this is concerned. But still, it's definitely a little bit better than the forms of Cars 2, that's for sure, because Cars 2 is still one of the weakest Pixar sequels ever. That's just because about the fact of its nonsensical premise, and in addition to that with the forms of some of other stuff that doesn't make sense. So, but either way, though, that's as far as I can think about it. Oh yeah, speaking of which, though, it's about the fact that it's been about 1 year ago since when Disney Pixar's Lightyear did first came out, during the films of last year. And I will admit, though, looking back at it right now, I do think it's pretty mediocre now, especially because I just get the strong sense of feeling about the fact that, in addition about the fact that still Lightyear is actually a box office bomb, in addition to that, I just feel like the actual visuals and presentations feels a bit, I don't know, meh to me though, and especially noticeable the story also feels a bit meh, just because it revolves around time travel paradox, which as a result, that's the only thing I'm not a big fan of. Well, at least for Back to the Future does make sense to me though, because obviously about the fact that the title of the name is called Back from the Future, so as a result for that kind of stuff though, I have no idea that the actual plot involves around time travel aspects during the films of Lightyear. It just feels a bit, I don't know, convoluted to me though, but that's just the way I feel about it. So as a result about the fact that I just essentially decided able to like, well, can't be bothered able to actually watch Lightyear nowadays to me though, because, well, it's just, I don't know, it's been a very long while since I actually discussed on something related to that. So, anyways though, at least on the upside is that specifically until Wednesday, that Monsters University were expected to become 10 years old, and during at some point in 2 days time, so I think I should probably save that conversation and during at some point on Wednesday, so but either way though, that can wait. So, anyways though, So, yeah, it's kind of hard to get back into Lightyear these days, especially because about the fact that I just felt incredibly disappointed with that particular film as a result to me, though, because, well, it's just I'm not a big fan of it in the end, especially because it just felt drastically different as far as what I thought about it. I mean, I first thought about the fact that I was really looking forward to it back then, but every once in a while, though, it just feels a bit, well, meh. To me though, so, but I digress. So, there's another topic I wanted to discuss upon, and that is that, remember what I said this before, there's a shame about the fact that Splash Mountain is somehow passed away, well, in terms of the actual attractions as far as this is concerned. Apparently that about the fact that they're about to be working on its revision counterpart, except this time it calls it a different name, so as a result it's gonna call it Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So as a result, it will be interesting I guess, but it's just about the fact no matter what though, it's just how the fact that it might felt a bit, well, somewhat feels like a downgraded version of Splash Mountain. I'm still curious to able to see what that's going to turn out to be, but either way though, that'll be discussion for a later time, because obviously as you can see, we are once again going back to the Green Hill Zone vibes again, except this time as you can tell, that the entire level layout is actually based off from some game, and that's what appears to be by the forms of Sonic Unleashed. And what do I mean by that though? Is that this is entirely based off from Missouri daytime, so because of this though, yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about this, because obviously with that familiar camera angles, as well as the forms that are familiar going for the actual tower segment, and as a result, yeah, it's just Missouri Day, based off from Sonic Unleashed for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 versions. So, yeah, because you can definitely tell with that particular level layout is actually very similar for that regard, except, you know what I mean about the fact that the level itself is actually super duper short in regards to the forms of its length, so. And something tells me I need to replay that particular stage again, because obviously I missed out quite a few red star rings, as well as the actual S rank time, so I was expecting if I was trying to get the S rank on my first attempt, but honestly it's just about the fact that sometimes the actual boost still feels a bit nerfed, especially because you're no longer invincible for that state, which I think I already pointed things out already, so I don't feel like trying to discuss on that again, so. Oh yeah, there's something I would like to classify for mention about this as well, is that I'm happy to report, is that Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget that's going to be releasing on Netflix, apparently it not only does it give us the official teaser trailer for it, which I was very excited about, but also it reveals the actual release date, and as it turns out, it's going to be releasing at some point on the 15th of December, and I was very excited about that, especially it's about to due out before Christmas time, 10 days to be exact. So as a result, it's roughly 10 days before Christmas. So, yeah, in fact, let me know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Are you guys excited for the forms of Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget before it comes out until the 15th of December? Because I am sure pretty excited for it, especially because it's been, you know, 23 years since the first film came out. And it's even stranger about the fact that the first film came out on Disney Plus recently, specifically the UK version, because I have no idea why they somehow do that stuff, especially because, I'm guessing because the actual Fox Entertainment kind of thing is actually involved with that stuff. Well, I don't know about you, because I need to able to go back onto the first film again before I decide able to jump right into Dawn of the Nugget, so even then though, I'm still very excited about that still, so either way, speaking of which though, is about the fact that one of those films in particular has recently became 29 years old, just recently, and that's what appears to be none other than the legendary The Lion King film. Specifically the animated version, because not the live action version, because that version still sucks. But I will admit though that, yeah, I appreciate about the fact that it's been 29 years old when the original The Lion King film has first came out in 1994. So imagine also during the forms of it next year as well, that I think between both Tarzan is going to get its 25th anniversary treatment, to be more specifically until next year in 2024, but then also during roughly the exactly same year time, is that The Lion King will eventually become 30 next year. So because of this though, yeah, still, time flies. So, but either way, and still looking back in it right now, even to this day, it still looks incredible. But I will admit though, the animated version is definitely a little bit more better, or should I say 10 times as better than it forms of how it does on the stupid live action version, because still about the fact that it's getting a little bit repetitive now to able to actually brings us the live action counterparts of certain Disney classic films that was based off from. So because of that though, I essentially just quit and done with the actual live action counterparts of certain films. Well, at least for some exceptions though, because obviously we're still very excited about next year's Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So even then though, I'm still very curious to check out what the actual teaser trailer is going to be like. Well, I can assure you, something tells me about the fact I don't think we can able to bump into the first trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 3 anytime soon, until specifically, let's just say, until the middle portion of 2024. So, but either way though, that's just for my guessing and stuff like that. So, anyway, so now we can able to open up the red Chaos Emerald in the actual vault. So of course we're able to try to obtain that as much as we could. So but either way though, because something tells me about the fact that certain Chaos Emerald placements is actually very further away in between. So but either way though, we'll try our best if we're able to actually obtain one of those Chaos Emeralds in particular. So but either way though, that'll be for later, I guess. So anyway though, so there's also another thing I should probably explain about this as well, is that recently there's a game called Moving Out 2. It's going to be coming onto the Nintendo Switch, and it does reveal its release date, and it should be releasing until the 15th of August. So yeah, it doesn't take that long, kind of think about it. So it's going to be roughly about 2 months time. So but either way though, that must have been saying something. And another thing I should probably explain about this as well, is that we're about to be getting the next game is going to be on its way onto the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack. Now, I almost first thought about the fact that it's about time that we get ourselves Mario Party 3, after several months after, you know, Mario Party 1 and Mario Party 2. Well, as it turns out, it's going to be another Game Boy Advance title, which, kind of thinking about it, it's actually pretty similar to the forms of how it does it since in May. However, unlike May, that we did get ourselves 3 Mario Game Boy Advance games, which appears to be, of course, Super Mario Advance 1, Super Mario Advance 2, Super Mario World, and Super Mario Advance 3, Yoshi's Island. So, instead, we get ourselves the Fire Emblem game, which as a result, the next Fire Emblem game, to be more specifically, based off of a Game Boy Advance game, is coming out on the you know what I'm saying about the fact that the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack. So as a result, it's going to be releasing at some point in, I wouldn't say this Friday in the UK version, whilst compared to the USA version or the American version is going to be like on Thursday or something like that. Well, because I haven't exactly thought about something with the actual differences between those different time zones and stuff like that. And I think, exponentially speaking though, is about the fact that with the Fire Emblem game on the Game Boy Advance is also going to be expected to be releasing around the exactly the same time, as in Sonic Origins Plus is about to be releasing as well. So, but either way though, as far as Sonic Origins, as far as this is concerned, I should probably save that conversation until for later time, to be more specifically when that particular thing is about to be released for reals, so. But either way, yeah, that's what I could say about it. So, but either way, I apologize for my comment take, it's a bit slightly awkward at points. So, anyways though, and there's also another game that's going to be releasing as well, and that's what appears to be something related to the forms of a top-down perspective racer game, and that's what appears to be known as Circuit Superstars. So as a result, it's also going to be releasing and during at some point on the 22nd of June. So, as far as what I've noticed something is about the fact that the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem game is about to be releasing on the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack. As it turns out, it's actually based off, well, as I say, it's actually currently known as Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade. So as a result for that kind of stuff though, I've honestly have no idea why that the UK version of the actual game doesn't seem to get the subtitle for it. So, but either way though, that's just for a discussion for a later time I suppose. So, but either way, Another thing I should probably explain about this as well is about the fact that we, speaking of Circuit Superstars, is actually getting its Top Gear collaboration DLC, which appears to be Top Gear The Sting Challenge, I think is what it says anyway. So, but either way, though, that must have been saying something, so... And I supposedly enough, there's another topic I would like to point out as well. That is about the fact that we're about to be able to get ourselves the actual release date, based off of the likes of the films of the upcoming Spider-Man movies. And as a result, one of them is about to be releasing at some point on 2024, or 2024 to be more specifically, so that's roughly next year. And also there's going to be another one that's going to be releasing until 2025 or 2025. So that's roughly about 2 years time. So yeah, it seems kind of interesting. I'm a little bit more optimistic about this, especially because after the events of, well, let's just say during the films of the first 3 Spider-Man movies during the 2000s, and especially noticeable with the Amazing Spider-Man duology movies by Andrew Garfield and stuff like that, and especially noticeable with the films of the most recent 3 Spider-Man trilogy of films, voiced by Tom Holland, I think it's what it says anyway, that he also did one of those performances in during the films of Uncharted video game movie. So, but either way though, yeah, by the films of Nathan Drake. So, but either way, yeah, I'm very curious to see what the other 2 Spider-Man movies is going to be like during at some point in 2024, as well as 2025. So, but either way, speaking of which though, is about the fact that apparently though, that the good news about the films of Toy Story 5, at least as far as I'm concerned, despite it still as it feels a bit unnecessary for its appearance, I guess, is that apparently both Woody and Buzz Lightyear will both return in Toy Story 5. So either way, I'm not exactly sure what the script is going to be like. So, but either way though, because recently that Pixar's Pete Docter has confirmed that the next Toy Story sequel will bring back both Woody and Buzz together. So, but either way, that doesn't take that long to able to actually just to realize about this, especially because, well, still we have no idea what the film is going to be like after the events of Toy Story 4 has concluded, despite it's a bit unnecessary with that particular storytelling. So, but either way though, that'll be a topic for later. So, but either way, speaking of which though, is about the fact that as far as I've noticed something in terms of any other release dates, in regards to the films of My Little Pony Generation 5 stuff, to be more specifically Make You Mark series, that is about the fact that they did somehow confirm the release date for Chapter 5, alongside with Chapter 6 as well, at least if I'm assuming so anyway. So for instance, that in Chapter 5 is going to be releasing at some point on September 18th, as far as I'm aware, so that's going to be roughly about 3 months time. So, but either way, that doesn't take that long to able to get to this point. And as far as I'm aware, for Chapter 6, specifically Secrets of Starlight, is expected to be releasing and during at some point on November 23rd in 2023. So because of this though, yeah, it doesn't take that long kind of thing about it when it comes to those releases in mind. So, yeah, that's something I guess. So, anyway, there's also another thing I should probably explain about this as well, and that is about the fact that, well, apparently they're about to be getting a live-action adaptation of Avatar The Last Airbender series. Is about to be getting its debuting at some point until next year in 2024, and it's going to be on Netflix. So as a result, the live-action version of Avatar The Last Airbender is going to be Netflix exclusive series. And from what I've seen, the actual cast with the actual similar makeover as the actual original TV series counterpart, it does manage to match. So, but either way though, that's all I can honestly try to say about this, I guess. So, but I digress. There's another thing I should probably explain about this as well, is that, yes, apparently for about a couple of days ago actually, that recently Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge does receive the actual DLC, which appears to be Dimension Shell Shock. So, pretty interesting with that particular DLC as far as this is concerned, and that gives a lot of players a lot more exciting for it. So, but either way though, that's what I can really say about this for the most part. Oh yeah, recently about the fact that, speaking of something related to Spider-Man stuff, that recently that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse did somehow manage to reach for its 6th spot in terms of the top 10 best, highest grossing films in 2023 so far. So as a result, it's now on 6th spot, as I said before, and it somehow got almost close to $500 million for its box office earnings, which is still looks incredibly good, but I must say about the fact that it's actually doing pretty well. Although, as far as any other films are concerned, Fast X or Fast 10 is now on number 3, and as far as I'm aware, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is still on 2, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie is still on top in number 1, so yeah, it's still doing pretty dang well when it comes to the films and the box office earnings when it comes to certain films these days. In addition to that, about the fact that, I believe John Wick Chapter 4 is now on number 9, and unfortunately The Little Mermaid is actually now on number 8. So, I'm really hoping about the fact that when it comes to other films coming up, like, to be more specifically, I wouldn't classify for saying, I actually kind of think about it, it's actually kind of hard to say, honestly, because I know for a fact that it's been about quite a few, weeks ago since I actually have last seen certain films on the cinemas, since, let's just say, my second viewing of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 before it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray or even Disney Plus, as a matter of fact. So even then though, because I do still manage able to enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, so just to ensure about the fact that it piques my attention for, certain films I was interested in and stuff like that, so... But, yeah, as far as anything else I could possibly say for this point, I think that's as far as I can talk about. So, but either way, though, yeah, that's what I can say about this, I guess. So, anyways, let's go ahead and just do some bit of homing attack chains with certain enemies for certain 2D segments worth noting for. And short things worth noting for, avoid that particular lava right there, because, just like the Forms of Error does it on certain Mario games, basically, if you dare touch the lava, it's instant death. And also, it's very similar to the Forms of Error does it in Sonic Lost World in Lava Mountain Zone. Except the fact that it's going to be a lot of emphasis on exploration instead of likely a linear platforming genre. In addition to that, you don't need to worry about the time limit, so... Oh yeah, every once in a while we come across into this particular Guardian right there, or to be more specifically with one of those glider enemies, is that... Well, you can essentially try to glide yourself to the next few sections worth noting for, but it doesn't take me that far for the sake of progression as far as I've realized. But I suppose it doesn't matter, because obviously about the fact that with our excellent top speed, we should be able to actually guaranteed able to bump into, you know what I'm saying, with some more challenges, as well as the forms of some more puzzles to solve, and potentially speaking with the forms of certain other, things we were able to actually come across into. So, but either way, now I'm sure enough we're able to try to complete as many of those challenges as much as we can before we're able to get our fast travels and stuff like that to make the process of Chaos Island not so much of a chore to able to continuously explore. So, but either way though, that way we were able to get the next guardrail to able to actually make an appearance. So, another thing I should probably explain about this as well is that recently, that Capcom 74, he's now recently finished up with Chapter 7 in Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. So he only got one chapter left, and that's what appears to be Chapter 8, The Thousand Year Door itself. So as a result, yeah, he's really looking forward to able to finish up the game, so just to ensure about the fact that I'm not exactly sure what's the next project for him after not only Plants vs. Zombies, but also with the forms of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, but I'm sure we're able to stay tuned for that during at some point in the next couple of days, potentially speaking. So, anyways, let's go ahead and make our way to the very top of this particular point right there to not only... dang it, I missed that particular handlebar to able to get onto that specific point. In addition to that, we also managed to make our way to our next cyberspace transporter. Oh yeah, this one of those cyberspace segments is quite infamous for most people, but I'm sure we'll explain more details about that and during at some point on Wednesday most likely, because, well, we'll save that topic until for later, so... So let's see what the level layout is going to be this time for the next cyberspace sequence we can hop into in Chaos Island. And something tells me this particular entry right there looks familiar to you, because this level layout is actually based off from Sonic Generations, and no matter what though, it's actually based off from modern Sonic's Sky Century level. So because of this though, with all that familiar obstacles you go into, and in addition to that, about the fact that it's a shame about the fact that we can no longer do certain tricks every time whenever you go through the actual dash ramp or jump ramp for that matter, or potentially speaking though with the forms of that particular rainbow rings to able to go through, because obviously we can no longer do all sorts of tricks there. So kind of a shame honestly, because it'll make things a little bit more interesting as well as familiar at the same time. But it's just about the fact that, like I said before, the boost system in this game has actually been nerfed. So, oh well, not the end of the world personally, but it's just about the fact that sometimes it feels a bit too much nitpicking for the sake of time, so. But again, I apologize if my commentary is a bit slightly still to that point, but that's just because, honestly, that's as far as I can usually say about this for the sake of topic at this point, especially because, well, I mean, after all, I've already explained quite a few bits here and there, which I guess that's a good thing. But as far as I'm aware about the fact that we'll let Pac-Man were able to mention more details about other topics worth noting for during at some point whenever he goes back onto it until tomorrow, so. But then again, no, it's just about the fact that, again, the actual uploading schedule is going pretty slowly, so, but either way though, so. But hopefully, again, we'll be back on track onto that particular stuff though, so. Yeah, it's just about the fact that with this particular segment right there, you don't go insanely fast as I've hoped it will be. But either way though, Becky cells can't be choosers, I guess. So, but either way, let's see how I did for this particular cyberspace segment right here. And, oh goody, we got ourselves almost perfect results, except with this one last red star ring I need to get. So I think something tells me I somehow need to go into a lower level on one of those segments or something like that. So. But again, as I mentioned this before, there were a couple of times about the fact that sometimes we need to replay the exactly same cyberspace segments from time to time, so we can able to get, you know what I'm saying, some more vault keys. Especially noticeable if you complete all of these missions during that particular run through, then you also get additional more vault keys here and there as well. So just in case you can able to get a lot of progressioning faster, for able to actually get certain chaos emeralds as far as this is concerned. So. Yeah, that's what I can say about it, I guess. So, but either way, though, I was expecting to be able to try to make things a bit faster and quick by continuous boosting, but then again, I just don't want to let the actual momentum screw me up when it comes to likely doing a lot of emphasis on platforming and stuff like that, so. But I digress. And I believe something tells me about the fact that for those of you who ever owned the PlayStation 5 version of Sonic Frontiers, I believe the loading times is actually cut a bit shorter compared to the forms of how it does on most of those systems I have, for not only on the PlayStation 4, but also on the Xbox One, and say applies with the Nintendo Switch versions as well. So, I think something tells me if I go in here, secrets! So, obviously, the secret of that particular teleporter right there is basically, it's pretty much exactly like in Sonic Generations, for sure. So, but either way though, except the fact that, as you can tell, the actual time of day is actually now in sunset, as opposed to daylight, so. Yeah, that's interesting, I guess. So, but either way, let's finish off this particular level right there. So, I don't think we've got enough time to able to continue exploring through, the majority of Chaos Island, unfortunately. And also I've realized about the fact that we haven't obtained a single Chaos Emerald so far. Well, that's just because I just wanted able to complete certain challenges first, before I able to reveal certain parts of the map. So, it makes a little bit more sense to me though, just because of all that fast travel system. So, but either way though, because that's the way how I roll, I guess. So, with that being said, we got the ending stuff at this point right here, while at the same time we can now able to obtain the yellow Chaos Emerald once we find the vault. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers. Instead, we're going to be continuing exploring through Chaos Island, and hopefully we're able to get one of those Chaos Emeralds before we get our continuous progressioning for the sake of time. So yeah, I'll see you guys until Wednesday. Later, fellas.